Hello everyone, welcome back to Alkaline Hydroxide 784 and today we will not be doing GPO of course. We'll be going through something else which is about the vaccine. So um, if you have seen the later GPO episode then you know that some of us uni students get to get the vaccine as well. I think it's quite helpful to just tell what it's like and also some other information about the vaccine in general. So this will be a three-part series. So the first part will be, just a quick explanation on how the vaccine works because I should know, right? Yeah, and also just generally what it was like going for the first dose. And the second part will be about looking at the information in that little booklet thing that they give, which has the ingredients that they use in the vaccine and maybe speculate on how the vaccine is made or discovered in the sense. And the third part will be about the second dose, the experience of that, which can only happen after the second dose. So you probably have to wait for that one. So here's the part one. So basically, you all know how the vaccine works. You've probably seen like two videos at least on that. Even if you're like really busy, you've been inundated with videos about literally all the vaccines or how much they work, like precisely why it is safe or not safe or whatever it is. You probably know about this already, but I'm just gonna repeat again how it works, I guess. So if you learn biology, you know that DNA gets transcribed into mRNA, which then gets translated into proteins through the help of tRNA. And yeah, a similar thing happens with the vaccine. Only thing instead of DNA, we directly go to the mRNA part of it. And in the vaccine, there is the mRNA of the spike protein, which is the thing on the cell membrane, like sticking out from the. Actually, not really a cell membrane. I don't know what that is. It sticks out from the virus, and that thing is what allows it to reach into a cell. And then, since the spike protein has a somewhat complementary shape to the receptors on the cell, it basically somehow manages to get in by activating that receptor. I mean, I'm saying this in the simplest of terms possible, but that's how it works. Um, so if in the virus you have the mRNA for the spike protein, and that will not only trigger the cells, it will also trigger the immune cells. So the immune cells generally like to go around, and if they see something that's not part of the body, they will see, okay, what's the shape of this thing. It will learn and memorize the shape of the pathogen, and then it will tell the body, okay, this is what the pathogen is. So how it does that is it creates antibodies. So the antibodies are what help us to identify the pathogen, and because of that there will be those, the T killer cells. They will come and kill the pathogen. So here, if you have the spike protein, it will basically trigger the immune response, and that will then memorize the shape of the spike protein and be on the lookout for more such spike proteins. So if the actual virus comes in, it can actually identify it and do something about it before it becomes serious. And that's why the vaccine's main goal is not necessarily to prevent getting the virus, because you can't really prevent yourself from getting the virus. It's not like a physical barrier on the outside of your body. It's more of like a safeguard against getting sick. So you don't get really sick in the sense, because the problem with COVID-19 is that the virus, the SARS-CoV-2, has quite a few variants. I think we've all known that already, and especially the one from South Asia. I do not know whether it's politically correct to say this or that, but I'll just say That's the variant that is B1617. So that particular variant tends to infect people who are vaccinated quite easily. But the thing is, those people won't face any severe disease. So that's the vaccine doing its job. The job of it is not necessarily to prevent you from getting the virus, but more to prevent you from, being in the ICU or something like that. And I think that's one very important clarification that we all need. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't get the vaccine, because let's say if you didn't get the vaccine and then you get infected with the virus and your body just is not on good terms with it, then you'll be in big trouble. So better might as well just get the vaccine instead. At least you're safeguarded, at least from the worst case scenario. Yeah, so that's how the vaccine works. I probably have said everything correctly, like 100% correct details, but that's generally how it works. Because I don't have a script, I didn't even write a script for this. So that's the first part of this video. The second part will be about getting the first dose and what tips I would like to give for when you actually get to register for it in the future. So the first dose, I guess the reason why I managed to get the vaccine was because the universities allowed some of their students to go and get the vaccine. So in NTU, they gave it to those who have hall rooms, and so I also got the notification, and I immediately booked the vaccine date, and I got the first dose on 19th May. So since Yishun just has so much people, I couldn't even get one in Yishun, so I booked it in Bishan, and I chose Pfizer because apparently Moderna is quite more painful. So I chose Pfizer, and my parents also got Pfizer, so I feel a bit more familiar with that. Might as well. Although technically there's not much of a difference. They are both mRNA vaccines. It's just that generally Moderna tends to produce a slightly more intense immune response compared to Pfizer. But they are both still safe in a sense, because I believe that they are the kind that do not really cause blood clots, unlike AstraZeneca or J&J. So yeah, doesn't matter. So I chose Bishan, and when I went there, basically it was actually quite empty outside. There wasn't anyone like waiting just to get into the vaccine place, and I immediately got my queue number and then went in. So inside there is basically like a whole bunch of like little not like counters, like there's some libraries that they have like little compartments where you can sit in and study. It kind of looks like that, but instead of studying, you go there and get a vaccine. So there's like little compartments in at the back of the room, and in front of them there's a lot of chairs for people to sit down and wait. So I immediately go into one of the compartments, and in not much time I managed to get a place to get the vaccine. So what they do is they ask some questions. Even before getting in, they'll ask you some questions on whether you're allergic and stuff like that. So they'll make sure that you're actually okay to get the vaccine. They won't cause, like, if they notice that there might be something that will implicate you, they will tell you, I guess. So if you're okay, then no worries. And when you actually go in to get the vaccine, you get more questions. You'll be asked whether you got sick in the last few days and things like that. They'll also ask you which arm you want to get the vaccine in. So what do I recommend here? Generally people would like to prefer to get it in their less dominant hand, because you don't want let's say if you're the kind of person who uses your dominant hand a lot, then if you get a vaccine there, you'll feel really uncomfortable trying to do anything. Like, I think especially for a second dose, but first dose isn't so bad actually. So, but there are other people who might prefer to get it in their dominant hand because they move it more often. I think that is also a pretty important point to note, which I will tell soon. So for me, I mean, in a sense, I'm a right-hander, but I'm not even sure if I'm a real right-hander, but okay, I write with my right hand, so that that's interesting. But at the same time, I'm somewhat comfortable with using my left hand for many things, and I think I tend to use my left hand for things that require strength sometimes. So yeah, I felt like, you know what, I'm just gonna get it in my right hand. Who cares? And also I need to sleep on my left side. So if you would like to sleep on one side, then please don't get it on that side. You don't want to be sleeping on top of pain. You cannot sleep properly. Yeah, so that's my advice on which hand to choose. It's up to you to decide. Please consider your life before you do that. So, um, yeah, I got it in my right hand, and basically, I think they will probably put it in the same hand according to my mom. So, I don't know. I'll find out again in the next dose. But immediately after they put a band-aid, a plaster. I mean, sorry, not really band. I keep saying band-aid because that's how I'm used to saying it, but it's actually a plaster with a little cotton thing in the middle to put pressure on the vaccine, and that's put on really tightly, and you know soon that it's actually more irritating than the actual vaccine. So yeah, so they put a band-aid, and then I had to wait for about 30 minutes in the whole bunch of chairs outside. Of course there was a lot of people there, so that place was actually more full than outside. So yeah, so I was just sitting there and reading a book. I think the most immediate thing that I felt was this immediate sense of sleepiness. I don't know why, but it just made me feel like I wanted to go and sleep. But then again, it could be because I woke up very early for some reason. Yeah. I mean, it's not very early. I mean, it's very early compared to the time that I slept. So basically, I didn't get enough sleep. And I was feeling very sleepy. And after 30 minutes, nothing happened, and I was just going out. So you might be wondering whether it was paining yet. Well, it didn't really like pain immediately. It felt more like I couldn't really lift my arm because the band-aid felt like there was some sort of elastic around it. And every time I tried to move it, it just felt like it wanted to not move. So that's what it felt like. Then I went back home, and it was okay. I I didn't really do much. In fact, my right hand was just feeling really lazy for that day and the day after that, and that was more that was more weird than the pain itself. But it felt kind of painful because of the plaster. Actually, I realized that in on the actual vaccine day, I was just feeling tired, and then after that, I was suddenly awake, and then the night I couldn't sleep. But it wasn't because of the pain. I didn't feel any pain when sleeping. I was just unable to sleep. And then the next day, I woke up early again, because I couldn't sleep properly. And the next day, it was a bit painful. And then I realized it wasn't just because of the vaccine, it was the plaster that made things 10 times worse. So, my advice is please remove your plaster once you can, because that is formed so tightly that it accentuates any pain that you feel, makes you feel it on a larger scale. So once you're able to remove it, and removing it wasn't particularly easy either because it felt like it was pulling out some of my hairs as well. But yeah, once I removed it, it felt like 10 times better. Honestly, it felt like my hand had some freedom from it finally. And after sleeping the next night, which went more smoothly at least, I didn't have I could actually sleep properly. The pain was almost completely gone. So the pain doesn't last for very long, don't worry. This is the first dose, so you're not supposed to get too much pain from it. Yeah, that's the side effects in terms of the immediate local area. But whether there's other side effects really depends on you as a person. For me, I don't really know if what I experienced were actually side effects or just me being me, because I generally do have certain things that I always experience, and it just felt, I don't know, maybe it affected my digestion system a bit. Like that's all I can really see. I don't wanna go too much into detail into that, but apart from that, not much really. I was feeling like a slight sense of tiredness on the actual day of the vaccine, but once I got enough sleep, I was okay already. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you find this very useful for when you actually get the vaccine. So, what do you learn from this? Well, first things first, decide which hand you want to get your vaccine on. Think about it properly. And two, please remove the plaster as soon as you can. So, those are the two very important things that you need to remember. Yeah. So part two will be about looking at the chemical ingredients in Pfizer because they actually gave this little booklet during the whole process. And they also gave some extra stuff like masks and sanitizer. But I don't think that's the most important part of the whole thing. The important part is actually getting the vaccine. So yeah, in the booklet there was a list of ingredients for the vaccine. And I'm very curious to know what are the purpose of like what's the purpose of each ingredient because I mean, it is a sort of pharmaceutical product in a way. I might as well be interested in that and try to understand more on why, like how it's manufactured, and also give you a bit of insight on how it was discovered to begin with. Yes, and then part three will be about the second dose experience. So if you found this video useful, please press the like button and subscribe. And with that, I would like to say thank you and bye.